Have you ever wondered why you're always doing the chasing when you should be the one being chased? Today you'll discover the strategy that will completely transform your approach to relationships. This isn't about complicated techniques, but about understanding a truth that Neil Strauss discovered after years of research in social psychology. True attraction isn't found in the pursuer, but in the one who generates irresistible curiosity. Most people make a fatal mistake, believing that seduction is about doing more, when in reality it's about doing the right thing at the right time. Are you ready to become magnetically attractive? Pay attention, because what you're about to learn will completely transform your social life. When we observe those who succeed in relationships, we find a common pattern. They don't chase, they attract. As Neil Strauss said, attraction is not a choice. It happens naturally when you position yourself correctly. And today you'll learn exactly how to do it. The first thing you need to understand is that emotional control is the foundation of all irresistible attraction. In simple terms, every time you react impulsively, you give away your power. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. They get upset by any comment, any look, any situation that doesn't go as expected. And as long as you remain reactive, you'll be predictable, manipulable, and worst of all, completely attainable. Neil Strauss explained it perfectly. Uncontrolled emotions are reflections of unresolved internal insecurities. If something upsets you, if something destabilizes you, it's not because it has power over you, but because there's something inside you that you haven't yet mastered. And here's where the real problem begins. You react so much because you care too much about what you shouldn't. You care excessively about others' opinions, external recognition, feeling accepted. But truly attractive people have understood something that most never comprehend. Not everything deserves a reaction, and certainly not your valuable energy. Every time you jump to defend yourself, every time you try to justify yourself, every time you respond with frustration, you're making it clear that others can affect you, that they have control over you. But what happens when you learn not to react? When someone provokes you and you just look at them calmly, when they try to destabilize you and your face doesn't change even a millimeter, that's when you become magnetic. Now, how do you train yourself to stop reacting? Start with a simple pause. Most people respond without thinking. Someone attacks them and they immediately become defensive. But when you train your mind to pause before reacting, you take control. Ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? Almost always the answer is no. Has it happened to you that after an argument you think of all the things you should have said? That regret comes from reacting from emotion instead of responding from strategy. Try this exercise. For a week, every time something provokes an impulsive reaction in you, wait 5 seconds before responding. Observe how your body reacts. Tension, discomfort, anxiety. Take it as a sign that there's still something you need to train. Make a list of situations that make you react the most and analyze why. Each night ask yourself, how many times today did I let something external affect me? Visualize the version of yourself that no longer falls into these emotional traps. Make it your identity. And when this happens, something begins to change inside you. You start seeing the world from another level. And best of all, when you learn not to react, this power multiplies even more, and that's what we'll talk about in the next point. If you really want them to seek you out, to chase you, to be interested in you, you need to understand that attachment is the greatest weakness a person can have. Everything that binds you, everything you find hard to let go of, is exactly what keeps you vulnerable and, therefore, unattractive. Are you ready to take the next step? If you've applied the first principle, it's time to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of these valuable tips that are transforming thousands of people. Truly magnetic people have mastered the art of letting go. But here's the problem. Most don't know how to do it. We cling to people, situations, expectations, believing that if we let them go, we'll lose something important. We were taught that letting go is losing, that walking away is giving up. But the reality is different. When you learn to let go, you free yourself. Neil Strauss talked about the importance of detachment as a fundamental process for creating genuine attraction. He understood that people who fail to let go live chained to their past, to their pain, and to what they will never be able to control. And here lies the power. When you're no longer afraid to lose, you become untouchable. Ask yourself, how many times have you stayed in a place where you no longer belonged? How many times have you maintained a draining relationship just because you were afraid to let go? How many times have you tried to change someone, hoping that someday they'll be the person you need? Here's the truth you need to understand today. Nothing you have to beg to stay is worth it. Nothing you have to force is truly yours. Anything that costs you peace of mind is too expensive. The most attractive people have learned to let go quickly. They don't stay where they aren't valued. They don't insist where there's no longer respect. They don't fear losing because they know that what's meant for them will never need to be forced. But how do you let go without feeling like you're losing? Change your mindset about detachment. Neil Strauss said, "What you deny subjugates you. What you accept transforms you." Letting go isn't losing. Letting go is accepting. Accepting that certain people were only meant to teach you something and not to stay. Accepting that some opportunities weren't for you. Accepting that some cycles must close for you to move forward. The reason most people don't let go is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of making mistakes, fear of regretting it later. But here's the trick. When you face that fear, you realize it was never as big as you thought. Do this liberation exercise. Think of something you find hard to let go of today. It could be a relationship, a thought, a situation. Now ask yourself, what would happen if I simply stopped carrying this? Imagine how the lightness, peace, tranquility would feel. That sensation of freedom is proof that letting go is the right thing to do. Repeat this phrase whenever you find it hard to let go. I trust that what's meant for me will come without effort. Because that's the truth. Nothing that's really meant for you will need to be desperately held onto. The next time you feel the need to insist where you aren't valued, do the opposite. Walk away. Observe what happens when you don't run after what wants to leave. You'll discover that most of the time when you let go, the universe surprises you with something better. Still doubt whether something or someone should remain in your life? Do this. Imagine they're already gone and observe how you feel with that idea. If you feel peace instead of anxiety, you already have your answer. Often the problem isn't attachment itself, but the resistance to accepting the obvious. You can't cling to something not destined to stay with you. When you master the art of letting go, your energy changes radically. You no longer live in a state of scarcity, but of abundance. People perceive you differently because the confidence of someone who isn't afraid to lose is magnetic. You have more control over your life because you stop clinging to what doesn't serve you. Letting go is the ultimate proof of self-confidence. Those who can't let go remain slaves to fear. But there's something more powerful than letting go, the art of silence. And this is what differentiates the truly irresistible. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and constantly validated, the one who knows how to stay silent and remain reserved has an incomparable advantage. Not revealing too much, not reacting impulsively, and not giving unnecessary explanations makes you someone others can't easily decipher. And what they can't decipher intrigues them, attracts them, obsesses them. Neil Strauss talked about the importance of maintaining a certain mystery and how the most attractive people are those who control their own narrative. They don't need to announce what they think, what they feel, or what they'll do. They simply act, observe, and let the results speak for themselves. Have you noticed we're already halfway through this transformation? If you're applying these principles and feeling they're resonating with you, like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear these truths. Your support helps us reach more people searching for these answers. Most people have no control over their mouth or their energy. They talk too much, over-explain, try to justify themselves, and every unnecessary word they say is a piece of information others can use against them, or worse, that diminishes their perceived value. When you're too accessible, predictable, and talkative, you lose attraction. Your value decreases because others feel they already know everything about you. There's no mystery, no depth, nothing that makes them want to discover more. And this applies in all areas of your life. In personal relationships, if you're always available and tell everything you think, you become a safe option, but not an interesting one. People take you for granted. At work, if you reveal too much about your plans and strategies, others can get ahead or take advantage of your information. In life in general, if you always try to explain your decisions, give reasons for everything you do, or justify every step you take, others feel they have the right to comment on your life. Here's the key: the less you reveal, the more control you have. Silence protects you. Not everyone needs to know what you think. Not everyone deserves access to your life. Have you noticed how the most fascinating people are those you can't predict, that you don't know exactly what they're thinking or what they'll do next? When you start talking less and observing more, you begin to see the hidden game behind every conversation. When you stay silent, you become more unpredictable. Nobody knows what you really think, and that gives you an advantage. Others respect you more because someone who doesn't explain everything projects confidence. Additionally, listening more and talking less allows you to identify hidden intentions. You start perceiving patterns, reading between the lines, detecting what others really want, even before they know it themselves. How do you use mystery to your advantage? First, don't reveal your plans until they're already in motion. Many people fail because they announce their moves before executing them. Don't announce, just do it. Second, don't explain your decisions. You don't have to justify yourself to anyone. If you made a decision, stand firm and let the results speak for themselves. Also, control your body language. Mystery isn't just in what you say, but how you behave. A neutral face, a confident gaze, and pauses before speaking create more impact than 1,000 words. Learn to enjoy silence. Don't fill every moment with unnecessary words. Truly powerful people feel comfortable in silence because they know they don't need to prove anything. Make people wonder more about you. Don't tell everything immediately. Leave room for curiosity. Interest increases when there's something to discover. Be aware of the power of the pause. When someone asks you an uncomfortable question, don't respond immediately. Take a moment to think, to measure the terrain. That pause makes others feel that what you're going to say has weight and value. And of course, don't share your weaknesses with just anyone. People can use information against you. Make sure those who have access to your vulnerability are people who truly deserve it. For a week, practice the following. Respond with fewer words. Don't explain more than necessary. Be clear, concise, and direct. Observe more than you speak. Analyze how people act when you don't reveal all your information. Use pauses in your conversations. Before responding, take a breath, maintain control. Don't announce your plans before they become reality. Let people be surprised by your actions, not by your words. When you control your information and don't reveal everything immediately, people start seeing you differently. Some will feel uncomfortable because they can't read your intentions. Others will admire you because you project a confidence few have. And some will try to decipher you because the unknown is always more attractive than the predictable. Here's the key. When you become a mystery, power shifts in your favor. But there's something else that makes truly irresistible people different. They not only know when to stay silent, they also know when to prioritize themselves above everything and everyone. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. Most people live putting others first. They do everything to please, to fit in, to be accepted. And this is the error that makes them weak, unattractive, and ultimately forgettable. Because every time you put yourself last, you give someone else control over your life. Neil Strauss talked about the importance of developing a strong, independent self, a process you can't achieve if you keep sacrificing yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. Truly magnetic people have understood this. When you prioritize yourself, power shifts in your favor. The problem is that we've been taught to feel guilty for thinking about ourselves. Since childhood, we're told that being selfish is wrong, that we must give, that we must sacrifice. But there's a big difference between being selfish and having self-love. Selfishness is demanding without giving. Self-love is giving, but without allowing yourself to be drained. And here's the key. When you start prioritizing yourself, people perceive you differently. You stop being an easy option. You stop being someone they can use when it's convenient for them. You become someone with standards, and people respect those with clear standards. Have you noticed that sometimes the more you give, the less you're valued? It's not a coincidence. Those who don't prioritize themselves will always be an option, never a priority. If you constantly sacrifice your time, energy, and well-being for others without receiving the same in return, all you're achieving is training people to give you less than you deserve. Think about it. If you're always available, they'll never value you. If you always say yes, they'll assume you have no life of your own. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. People who are truly attractive have learned to set boundaries, not because they're cold or distant, but because they know their energy is valuable and they don't give it away to just anyone. How do you start prioritizing yourself without feeling guilty? First, learn to say no without explanations. You don't have to justify why you don't want to do something. A simple "no thank you" is enough. Stop giving without reciprocity. If you notice you're always the one who gives, who makes an effort, who puts in all the work, stop. Observe who is really there for you and who only appears when they need something. Cut off access to those who don't value you. Not everyone deserves a place in your life. If someone only appears when they need something, remove them from your circle. Invest time in yourself before others. Don't put anyone above your peace of mind. If something drains you more than it contributes, it's not worth it. Get rid of the guilt for prioritizing yourself. You don't owe anyone your time or energy. If someone gets upset because you put yourself first, that person was benefiting from you neglecting yourself. Doubt how prioritizing yourself can change your life? Do this experiment for a week. Say no to something you really don't want to do without feeling guilty. Observe how people react when you stop being always available. Give yourself time alone without external interruptions. Reflect. How many times a day do you act out of obligation rather than real desire? You'll see something surprising happen. Those who truly value you will respect your space and boundaries. Those who only wanted you for convenience will walk away. And that's exactly what you want. When you start prioritizing yourself, people treat you differently. Those who value you will stay and respect you even more. Those who were only there for convenience will disappear. And those who previously took you for granted will suddenly feel they're losing you. But here's the key. When you give yourself the value you deserve, the world returns it multiplied. And there's an even higher level you should reach, the total transformation of your presence. It's not just about prioritizing yourself, but about radiating an energy that makes the world perceive you in a completely different way. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. When someone becomes truly irresistible, their energy changes radically. They're no longer someone who begs, who chases, or who gets dragged along by what others want. They're someone who knows their worth and isn't afraid to lose what doesn't serve them. People who have reached this level have developed a presence that's felt without words. It's not something that's said, it's something that's perceived. When you enter a room, others can notice the difference. You don't need validation, you don't need approval, and for that reason, suddenly, you start receiving more respect, more admiration, and more opportunities. Neil Strauss expressed it clearly. People respect those who aren't afraid to lose anything. When you reach this level, the way others perceive you changes radically. Think about this. Have you ever known someone who needs nothing from anyone and, for some reason, everyone wants to be close to that person? That happens because independence is magnetically attractive. When you're a self-sufficient person, people stop taking you for granted. Those who previously ignored you start seeking you out. Opportunities come without you having to force them. Your presence becomes stronger without needing to say anything. Truly, magnetic people don't have to prove anything. They don't seek to impress. They don't seek attention. But somehow they end up standing out. Why? Because self-confidence is irresistible. Notice the difference. Someone seeking approval talks too much, tries to please, wants to be liked at all costs. Someone who's unreachable simply is present, with a firm energy without the need to prove anything. And here's the key point. When you reach this level, people start treating you as someone worth knowing, as someone worth chasing. Reaching this level is one thing, maintaining it is another. Here are 3 keys to ensure you never go back to being someone others can manipulate. First, Never put anyone above your peace. If someone makes you doubt your worth, that person doesn't deserve a place in your life. Second, don't explain or justify yourself. When you make a decision, stand firm. You don't have to convince anyone you're doing the right thing. Third, surround yourself with people who also have this mindset. If you surround yourself with insecure people who depend on external validation, it's just a matter of time before they drag you back into that cycle. Has it ever happened that someone who previously ignored you suddenly starts seeking you out when you stop paying attention to them? It's not a coincidence. When you're truly magnetic, social dynamics completely change in your favor. People who previously ignored you now seek you out. Those who thought they could manipulate you now feel uncomfortable in your presence. Opportunities start arriving without you chasing them, because people detect the energy of someone who knows their worth. If you really want to make sure you never lose this mindset, do the following for a week. Observe who tries to get your attention and ask yourself if they really deserve it. Every time you feel the need to explain or justify yourself, stop and keep silent. Eliminate any behavior that indicates desperation to be accepted. Each night, reflect. Did you act today from security or from the need for validation? When you finally reach this point, the world responds differently. People admire you but don't fully understand why. People start treating you with more respect, even without you doing anything special. You feel a freedom you didn't have before because you no longer need anything from anyone. Here's the difference. When you're someone who no longer needs approval, attention, or external validation, you automatically become someone everyone seeks. But to get here, you need to leave behind everything that once made you dependent on the outside world. And that's the key. That's the strategy Neil Strauss understood better than anyone. Don't chase her anymore. Become someone who doesn't need to chase, and she'll do it for you. If you've made it this far, there's something you already know. Becoming magnetically attractive isn't an act of arrogance, but an act of personal power. It's understanding that no one has the right to control you, manipulate you, or make you feel less than you are. It's taking command of your own life and establishing clear boundaries that no one can cross. People who have reached this level no longer play by others' rules. They don't seek approval. They don't ask permission to be who they are. And that's why the world treats them differently. Because when you don't chase, you become the magnet. When you don't beg, you become the prize. When you don't explain yourself, you become a mystery. And mystery always attracts. When you adopt this mindset, your presence changes. You stop being someone who can be ignored or taken for granted. Relationships that didn't add value disappear. Only those who truly value your energy will stay. Opportunities come on their own because confidence is magnetic and people perceive it. You have peace of mind because you no longer wear yourself out trying to fit in or please everyone. But this doesn't happen overnight. It's a decision you must make every day. Every time you want to react impulsively, every time you feel the need to explain yourself, every time you doubt your worth. Remember, you decide whether you remain easily accessible or rise above it all. Your challenge from today: comment below the following declaration to reaffirm your commitment to this change. I choose to be unreachable for anything that doesn't add to my life. My energy is valuable and I protect it. Let the world know you're no longer the same person who used to need validation or attention. You're someone who respects yourself, who prioritizes yourself, and who isn't afraid to let go of what doesn't serve you. And when you do this, when you truly live it, you'll see how the world starts treating you the way you always deserve to be treated. Because being magnetically attractive isn't about moving away from the world. It's about getting closer to your best version. If this message has impacted you, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more content that will transform your life. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Remember, stop chasing her, become someone who doesn't need to chase, and she'll chase you instead.